Got it. All right. Dr. Chanel, would you be able to view, and I think we're there, I got it on this other screen. Are you able to view the stream and monitor the chat just to see so I don't miss anything? Would you mind?
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate you.
No
All
problem.
right, guys. Well, we are on, I believe this is Zooming. So let's go ahead. Is it showing live on your side, Crystal?
It is.
Okay, okay, amen. Well, y'all look, y'all know I'm a country girl. Good, a good afternoon, Facebook Live. Happy Sunday, happy Pentecost to those of you that have been celebrating the power of the Holy Ghost on today. We had a good time at service. I was drenched wet in the spirit of the living God, and I can't wait to go take my church nap. I tell you, it's real, it's necessary. Our bishop elect preached as if we were back in the upper room in the book of Acts. So we had a good time at service today. But I am so excited. This is our first ever outreach call. You guys know with Tuesday Live with Tab eChurch, we do things a little bit differently. And because the Lord has allowed our digital footprint, which is where we have our platform, to be in 26 states and in 4 different countries, we do outreach a little bit more different than the other churches may do. So we thank God. Hey there, Shonda, for allowing us to be a part of outreach. Our 4 initiatives, for those of you that may not know, are mental health awareness and physical health and financial health and social health. And May is the month to celebrate, not just pause and talk about it, but to celebrate the blessing of having individuals that have been called by God and gifted with this ability to help and assist us as we go through the journey of being healthy in our mind, in our thoughts, and in the spirits that we hold in our hearts. So I am so excited. I want to introduce these individuals, these professionals that we have that are part of the panel conversation. And also because we have some board members that are on, I want to introduce this board and we're going to jump into the conversation on today. So I will start with Miss Latasha. Latasha is a licensed professional counselor, and she is a emotional wellness expert in the workplace. Is that right, Latasha?
That is right.
All right, all right. Now, so I'm so excited. She's going to take us through some conversations today. We also have on the panel Miss Natalie. Miss Natalie is a psychotherapist. Now, y'all don't get nervous because I've used the word psycho. It's going to be all right. Psychotherapist and wellness expert. Miss Natalie, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today. We welcome you both. We also have, come on, Miss Natalie, go, you can say something.
No, I was just saying yes. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Latasha and Natalie, guys, if you remember a couple of months ago, we had one of our eChurch members. Her name is Melanie, Dr. Melanie Thompson, and she came before us and y'all cut up. We went to over 1,000 and I think 200 views on that particular day. And she just took us on a journey of mental health in conversation. And she referred these 2 amazing women. We celebrate you, Melody, because Melanie crossed the stage and I believe she's in an airport getting back to Georgia. But we are so proud of Melanie. Melanie also has worked with Yvette Searson and she's driving right now. So that's the only reason her camera is not on, because she must be safe in the road. It is a requirement. So Yvette Searson also works in the mental health area, but she is the vice president that sits on the board with Tuesday Live with Tab eChurch. And then we have Miss Shonda Johnson. Shonda is a classmate that comes all the way back from the Great Carolinas in Sumter, South Carolina. And Shonda has this page that talks about movement for healing mind, for a healing mind. And she is in that area of talking about physical fitness, which is one of our initiatives, and mental health as well. And Shonda is going through the training to get all of her letters of, if I understand correct. Is that right, Shonda? All right, so we want to make sure that we continue to cheer her on because we need so many more people that are in this space. And then I want to go over to Dr. Crystal Chanel. You guys, she is no stranger. She is the secretary that sits on the board for the Tuesday Live with Tab eChurch. And Dr. Chanel is also one that works in the mental health space. And last but not least, we have Mr. Ed Brogdon, that handsome man that's in the middle, that good looking pecan tan guy that that's sitting there that look, I think I smile like my daddy. That y'all, that's my daddy. That is my father, Edward Brogdon, retired out of the United States Air Force, and he is the treasurer of the Tuesday Live with Tab E-Church. And I am so very excited. I'm so excited because I believe that God is going to let us have a super duper conversation around this topic that we're going to snatch back from 2022. Because every now and then you got to let something, you know, any cookers that are on any chefs out here, you got to cook something and then you got to let it marinate a little bit. And in 2022, there was this theme that was out there. Every year, there's a theme around mental health awareness that takes place in the month of May. And the theme in that particular year, if I'm not mistaken, let me pull it back, was break the stigma. So we want to bring that conversation back alive. There's a new theme out there for 2024, and we're not behind the eight ball. But at the end of the day, there's still some stigmatism around mental health. So we want to have a conversation and just have a good time. So I'm going to start off and then I'm going to shoot this thing over to the professionals here. And you guys feel free to jump in and, you know, any type of conversation. And Dr. Chanel is assisting me. I just love her because I didn't ask her to do it until just 2 minutes ago, but she's so amazing. I asked her if she would watch the chat. So if there's any questions, Dr. Chanel, that pop up on the Facebook Live chat, Facebook Live, we want you to be a part of this conversation. So if you have questions, if there's something that you just aren't certain about, please feel free to talk to us. This is a conversation. We are talking together, not talking at you. So I want to start off just with this definition of what stigma is when it comes to mental health. And you guys can see me looking over here because I got these dual screens, okay? So stigma is defined by the Mental Health Foundation as a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, a quality, or person. And it says the stigma surrounding mental health disorders leads too many people to hiding their struggles and avoiding getting the help that they need. I can tell you there are a number of individuals that I know because of the stigmatism. I remember back in the day, if something was wrong, especially with kids, they would say, you know, well, they must be on that Ritalin. And it was like everybody, it was a Ritalin conversation. And if it was something that you heard about and you were, you know, a school age kid, it was something that you would kind of snicker about. You would say, you know, that's somebody on the Ritalin, or, you know, they must ride the short bus, or, you know, that's just a retard. And it's these words that we've used that have been planted in the seeds of our minds since we were children. So when we talk about breaking the stigma, it's still something that we see, unfortunately, in 2024. I want to start off with our guests, and you guys feel free to just jump in. But tell me, when you hear that word stigma and the stigmatism around mental health, as a professional, as someone that's trained and going through the training in this field, what are some stigmas that you guys have really had to take your time and walk people through understanding and helping to break?
Wow, there's so many. Thank you for asking that and starting with that. The first thing that popped into my head is it's a they problem. This idea, the stigma is it's not me, it's them, right? They are the ones that have mental health problems or challenges. And I start with always defining that mental health is something that we all have. It's like physical health. We all have it. And at any point, we're on that continuum where we are either in good, we're in poor, or we have illness or conditions. And so the first stigma is accepting and understanding that belief, or breaking that belief system that it's a they problem. No, it's a we problem. We all have it. And we all have to learn how to navigate and manage our mental health. So I would start there.
That's awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Wow, we all have mental health. That's really good. We really do. Yes. Latasha, I see your mic is open.
Yes, I would add to what Natalie was saying. So once we identify that it is an us problem and not a they problem, I think we have to continue to educate those that are decision makers regarding aspects of mental health. I definitely think we're moving in a direction where the stigma is decreasing, but now we are compartmentalizing what mental health disorder is a good one versus a bad one. So if there's more resources for autism, then that becomes a good mental health issue. If there's not a lot of resources out there, then maybe if it's bipolar or another one that doesn't have funding sources or races or runs, then we begin to stigmatize this one being better than that one. So I do believe that we still have to expand our thoughts on we can all have good mental health, poor mental health, or illness, but we need to break down the stigma in between each mental health disorder.
Awesome. That's good. That's good. And we're going to go over some of those areas that you even listed today. Everybody else, and I know y'all probably like, Tab, I'm not on the panel, I just joined the conversation, but feel free to open up your mic because again, this is a conversation. Shonda, I see your mic is open.
So I also think in the African American community, there has been this stigma of, what happens in the home stays in the home, and that we shouldn't talk to people outside of that space about our problems and issues. And I think because of that, there have been a lot of generational mental health issues that have not been addressed because professionals have not been brought into that space because it hasn't been considered a safe space. So I think we need to also work on educating people on the process of what therapy looks like. And that is not about telling your business. It's really about processing what you're feeling and what's going on and being okay with that.
That's good. That is really good. And I think I remember, and I think a lot of us can say, that what goes on in the house stays in this house. Growing up in that space, and it's when you said that I couldn't help but look dead in the center at my dad, because I didn't grow up at Daddy's house, but I had opportunities to visit and to because my parents had been divorced by that time. But there were times that Daddy would always ask, he calls me firstborn, how are you doing? Firstborn, how's everything going? And because of what I was taught, what goes on in this house stays in this house, there's a lot of conversations that I didn't have with Daddy. And then as I got older, even as an adult, I didn't know how to have those conversations with my daddy because it was still in the back of my head. And I just thank God that we have such a relationship now where I probably tell him more than he'd like to know, but but it's breaking the stigmatism. And I've tried to pass that on to my sons as well. Guys, I want to go into this space because you started here, and I want to hit different groups of people, if you don't mind. Near and dear to me are the youth. They're the children. I used to be a youth leader, and they have this thing that popped up during the pandemic that always existed, but for some reason the pandemic highlighted it. When the children weren't at school with the teacher and with the counselor and in the safe covering of, I have food and I have someone that I can go to even for hygiene areas, if I need deodorant and stuff like that, or I can talk to my teacher and say, Miss So-and-so, can we talk after school or during lunch? That space was snatched away during the pandemic. And I remember the statistics showing that over 300% of the cases had spiked of going into the emergency room, and it was dealing with children. Children were now at home full time, and something happened where what was going on at home was no longer staying at home. So I want to start with our youth and just ask you guys, this question, especially for those of you that work with the youth. How do we, number one, focus on our babies? How do we, and for any parent that may be out there that's listening, how do we focus on our babies?
Well, I'll go ahead and start off, if that's okay. First, I would just say, number one, we have to make sure that we're listening to our children, listening to our kids, really being involved and seeing exactly what's going on, what's happening, what they are actually saying out of their mouth and what they're actually hearing. I counsel so many children on a day-to-day basis. I have one patient that is young as 5. And when I tell you it's heartbreaking, when I say seeing the children come in with suicidal thoughts, having, molestation going on, foster care, all types of different stories that you hear on a daily basis. The involvement of drugs and different things of that nature. It's unbelievable. Some days, to be honest, I tell people, I said, yes, I am a mental health counselor, but at the same token, I don't know if I'm in the right field because a lot of times, the tears, I be trying to like hold my head back, to make sure the tears don't drop from my face. So it's, but to see the kids the way that they are, it's very heartbreaking. It's very touching. And I would definitely say, as a parent, me being a parent of even my own 16-year-old, there's some things that we just overcame and still kind of going through and pushing through and different things of that nature. And you have to really have an eye, and being in the field, you have to know it, you have to see it, and you have to recognize it. And of course, try your best to go ahead and get that child some assistance as soon as possible. Because the kids can't handle it like the adults can handle it. A lot of times we as adults, sometimes it's a lot of pressure on us. So just imagine the children, that are in their teenage years or even younger.
That's good. That's good, Dr. Chanel. And I'm taking notes because I don't want to just hear this information to hear it. The reason we're making this an outreach initiative, and I'm going to encourage those of you that are listening to do the same, is because I just believe that we're going to cross paths with somebody along this journey in life that we can help. And you never know who's coming your way. And I'd hate for you to be in a position where you're like, what was it? I remember, but I can't remember. And the thing that I just heard you say, Dr. Chanel, was that nugget of listening. Sometimes, especially in the African American community, and I'm mindful that we have, a mixture of individuals that are part of Tuesday Live. But I think it's the same demographically where we've been told that, children are to be seen and not heard. So you said something very powerful, listening, just being that ear to listen. Anybody else want to chime in?
I will add to that because I think mindset shifts need to happen where we will tell children you don't have anything to be sad about, right? You don't have anything to worry about. You don't have any problems, right? Because their experiences are different than ours. So being mindful not to trivialize their experience or their emotions, they are real, they're significant. And when we do that, we obviously don't help them to learn how to manage them. So that was the first thing, right? Like us changing our mindsets. And then second, being able to model for them what it looks like to cope with big emotions. Sometimes we don't do that enough as adults, so kids don't understand or see that. But I often tell parents the greatest thing you can do is model the behavior for them. They're watching, right? They watch everything we say and what we don't say. They hear it. So those are the things that I would offer to someone and things that I think about for myself as a parent.
Wow, that's good, Natalie. Thank you. And welcome to those of you that are joining. We're live stream on Facebook and on Zoom. And the question that we just asked to our professionals here today was, how do we, starting with our youth, how do we take the stigma out of talking about mental health and giving them a space where they can have this conversation? And we heard listening, and then I love what you just said, Natalie, not minimizing the fact that they also have feelings. I think about, I have 3 sons, and the number of times that I've told them, don't cry, suck it up, be strong. And now I'm saying, baby, get it out, just cry, come on, you can talk to me. And they're in their 20s like, huh? But it's a mindset shift. They have feelings, they have emotions, they have the right to be able to process stuff on their level and to be able to express it in a way that they know it's safe. Latasha, I see your mic is open. Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to add, and it piggybacks on both what both ladies mentioned. I've had an opportunity to partner with some alternative schools, not to really focus on the kids, but to really focus on the parents. So a lot of times the issue is not so much with the kid, it's really the parent and their overall wellness. So they're wanting little Johnny to be quiet because mom has a lot of voices in her head. And so I think it's a parallel process. We can't just focus on the kid. We have to make sure that parents are well. A lot of times when I'm doing those trainings, parents are crying because they have not been able to go out on a date. They have not been able to take a walk. They don't even have time to drink water or go to the bathroom by themselves. So it's important that that parent can't actually model if they're not getting their needs met as well. So I went from working with youth to working with parents, and I found that, wow, these parents really need the support.
Yeah. That's, oh gosh, wow. All
And
right.
one other thing that I would like to add as well is just having the patience. We as parents, my God, today, let me raise my hand because my patience is at like -0. Okay.
You're getting
And
better
it's
though.
like,
I watched you.
oh, Jesus. So just having the patience, to really have with our children, because a lot of times, I say to myself sometimes, I'm helping so many people, so many children, so many adults, and different things of that nature. But of course, as counselors, we can't necessarily counsel our own child and different things of that nature. We can be the parent, but we can't be the therapist for them, right? But having that patience to walk through knowing that, okay, if you're changing lives for others, then at the same time, God is going to definitely, put his hand in the basket, right? So to make those changes and just give us what we need in our own homes, because sometimes we have issues going on in our own homes, but at the same token, we're helping other people in their homes, but can't see the change in your physical house.
Yeah.
So just having the patience to go through the journey and just pray. They say you're not supposed to pray for patience, I believe. That's what I heard, right?
The
So let me
scripture
not
formula means you get a little bit of trial and tribulation so that,
exactly.
yeah.
I've had enough of trial and tribulations in 43 years. So I'm not going to pray for that, but just definitely having
Yeah.
the patience for our children.
Amen. Amen. And I thank you guys for sharing that. And I see some on the move t-shirts that have hit the screen. This has been our outreach shirt with the barcode on the back. Because we want to again just let people know that it's a movement. Having certain conversations at the table is a movement that we're on. So we're dedicated to it. I want to go into this place with the youth, and then I'm gonna go on over to the parents because you guys went there. But before we leave talking about our young people, and for those of you that are on the Zoom call, if you have a question, feel free to just say, hey, hand up, come off mute, ask your questions because this is a conversation, or you can put it in the chat if you'd like. And same thing on Facebook. We have the Facebook chat that's being monitored. But I hear this grouping that takes place oftentimes as it relates to kids, and they get labeled. And before I go into these mental health labels, I want to go into the labels that sometimes I don't think we understand the weight that we put on children. Their social skills. You're an introvert and I'm an extrovert. I know my kids, I have 3 sons, and oh God, one is extroverted like me, and I think the other 2 are introverted. And I remember one time calling my daddy, I said, this child he be black and white. There's no gray area. And he said, oh, he's logical. And I said, well, what does that mean? Because all I know is, can he come stay with you for a couple of a true story. I have because I'm here, and he's calm and he's reserved. And I remember saying, in my mind, I'm like, what's wrong with him? And I'm trying to, are you okay? He's like, I'm good. We were just different. And sometimes we don't give children the space to just be who God has created them to be, to just trust that the personality they have is the personality God gave them. Have you guys ever run into that space where that identity, it's like you're working with parents, but you're also trying to work with the kids to also just say, hey, they're still developing. Let them, I just hate to say it, but let them be. Let little Johnny be. Have you ever run into that, guys?
I will say that in my 13-year career of working with children and adults, I've definitely seen that. I think at times parents don't know, or what to identify that they see their child experiencing in behaviors. So sometimes they just kind of want a quick fix or something to just say, okay, this is what I see, now fix my kid, because they don't know what they see their child experiencing. So I think a lot of what we have to do as professionals is to be able to give them or identify what's happening, but not define them, not define their child by that. Identify what's happening, but not make that their stamp of what they're experiencing.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I found that a lot of the times it's the parents' fear, right? So if my daughter isn't cleaning up the house, this means she won't be a productive citizen in the world, which is not true, right? So we end up associating these things with our own fears. And then we are driven by our own fears, as Ashonda mentioned, to kind of fix them, because then it's a reflection on me, right? Then it looks like I failed. Or so then it becomes our underlying fears and insecurities. But understanding the normal natural phases of what children go through is helpful. So there are times when, even with my own kids, I have three, I have to remind myself, you're acting like a 7-year-old. And that's not to put her down. That's for me to remember she is acting according to what's typical behavior for a 7-year-old. You are the one with the problem, Natalie. And when I do that, it puts it in perspective. And I'm not expecting her to act like a 12-year-old, right? I'm not expecting her to act like a 15-year-old. She's a 7-year-old. And so for me, that helps to put it in perspective, know the normal typical, should I say, developmental stages for children.
Wow, that's good. That's good. You both talked about fear and being in a place where you allow them. There we go. I'm getting feedback. Where you could have them in a place where they understand that it is normal, it's okay. And Dr. Chanel, she was checking the Facebook stream. Did it connect over or not yet?
I checked it several times and I'm not seeing it at all on your personal page or the eChurch page, but it's showing on Zoom as if it's live. So I'm not sure what the scenario is.
Okay, so it may be after the fact, y'all. I told you this is the first time, so we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. So the other thing that I wanted, because you guys talked about this thing called fear, and I want to go into the parent space now. Let's talk about our parents, because what I'm having to do as an adult, where I've stepped back and said, you know what? There were some unhealthy behaviors I might have modeled, like, stop crying and toughen it up. Those subtle things that I may have said, not realizing that I possibly planted a seed. And now here I am sharing with the world everything concerning me. And they're like, well, where did this come from? So when we talk about that, I want to now go to this parental space. Can we talk and give some support to our parents? Because oftentimes I think some things are generational, and the grace to remember that, I'm fortunate enough to have my daddy that's on, but I really wasn't mindful of it until I think it was in November, when we had a family that was impacted by a house fire. Didn't know the family, but they had lost everything. And I asked the board, I said, hey guys, we just officially launched. And I said, would you guys mind donating so that we could help this family in need? And my dad shared, he said, I remember, and Daddy, you have to tell me the age again, but he was a young child. Come off mute if you don't mind. Dad. There you go.
I think around 7 or 8 years old.
And during that time, his mother, who's my grandmother, that I never got an opportunity to meet, died in a house fire. And I never connected it. And until he shared that, and he said, this is something that hits me, because he remembered seeing the flames and seeing, and I'm like, wow. And Daddy may have shared that, but I just I didn't remember. So here I am now in my 40s saying, wait a minute, my dad saw his mom pass in a house fire. So generationally, how does that now shape him as a child molding and growing up. And then even when you now see a family that's been triggered by a house fire, and there's things that generationally we tuck away. You know, there's things about my life that I've tucked away because I don't want my kids to experience it, or I don't even know how to articulate it. So I want to give some grace and some support to even our parents that oftentimes, and our grandparents that go through things and they're really just doing the best that they know how to do. But nonetheless, there's been an impact mentally in being able to just go through the norms that we would call of day to day. Somebody talk to me on that, please.
I guess I'll start us off. I definitely think that most generations didn't have the opportunity to feel anything. They had to keep moving. They weren't really connected with what was going on in the inside. They had to work. A lot of children were latchkey kids. And so oftentimes when they're trying to identify with their children, trying to find out what their child may feel, they haven't felt anything themselves. So what I would say to a parent is we have to get you connected with your internal experience. A lot of times parents will say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, let's sit and tell me what you feel. And sometimes some of those reflective questions, if the parent has the space and the bandwidth, they will begin to feel what's on the inside. So then they can begin to work on that and then model that for their children. So a lot of times when parents are saying, don't cry or stop, it's because they haven't identified with that and they hadn't had time to do that themselves. So I would say first, the somatic experience is very important. What you feel on the inside will come out on the outside.
Wow. Wow, that's good. And Daddy, I just put you on the spot. I'm so sorry. Like, let me tell you about my dad. But you know, I think about that. My sons, like they will call Papa and be like, you know, well, Papa said this when they need advice and they need those, you know, words of wisdom because it's a man and they can connect, they understand it. And I'm so grateful that they have him as a resource. And you just said something that I think was key, just about being able to feel. And as adults, especially for those of us that are parents, I think sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to feel what we feel. And we dismiss it and we try to push it away, or we try to manage it with other things that aren't always healthy. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex. And now I'm going to go to the place that seems a little hidden, being busy. I'm always on the go, involved in everything. And you're running from that space to really just process and articulate, how do I feel? How do you guys as professionals bring that conversation up? Like if somebody, and I think it's gonna stream later. If not, it's recorded and I'll be able to upload it to Facebook. But how do you make it a safe space for people to say, hey, because we ask folks all the day, how you feeling? How you doing? And before they can answer that question, we went on to another part of the conversation. We're not even listening. How do you guys make it a safe space to express how you are feeling? Natalie.
Good question. Don't ask how you're feeling because people don't either know or they don't know how to articulate it. But Tasha alluded to somatic work, which is a part of the work that I absolutely love. So many people don't understand or know it, but it's really about this connection to the body. It's a mind-body connection. And so before we go into emotions, which can be very intense, I teach people how to feel what's happening inside of them, meaning what are the sensations you're feeling in this moment? Where places do you feel tightness or tension? I'm getting them to become more aware and present with their bodies, because a lot of the times those emotions we experience through the body, but we don't always have the language, or they're too heavy, or we're afraid if I start to express them, I'll lose control. So we just start with, how are you feeling? What's present for you? And they'll, say, I notice tightness in my neck or my shoulders. We'll talk about, well, what does it feel like? And get them to be descriptive. It's heavy, it's light, it tingles, it's prickly, it's sharp, whatever those words are. But what we're doing is we're teaching them how to become more in tune and more aware. And then I can lead them into heavier emotions because there are places in the body, whether we know it or not, where we carry emotions. And so if they're telling me about back pain, oh, we're probably looking at some anger or guilt that they're carrying. So it's kind of this progression, but it starts with just the sensations that they may experience in the body.
In the body. That's good, Natalie. I want to pull Shonda you in for just a second because I know we're talking about mental health, but you just said something that I hear a lot of people do, and I found myself doing it to cope sometimes and just get through a tough moment. Shonda, you focus a lot on fitness. Can
Yes.
you tie that in and if there is a tie? Because I just know I've heard guys say, you know what, I go work out, or women say I get out of the house and I just hit the park, I hit the tread mill and I just do something physical to get it out. Talk to us about that.
So when Natalie mentioned that, I immediately wanted to say something because physically we absolutely experience feelings within our bodies. So the incorporation of physical movement absolutely helps us with removing what the physical the physical feelings that we're experiencing. Movement helps with us being able to express that. So for someone that may not be able to say, I'm angry today, or someone that may not be able to say, I feel depressed, or I don't know what's going on, you can utilize exercise as a way to release those things in a healthy way versus utilizing drugs, sex, relationships, other unhealthy behaviors. So I think if we can teach people the importance of mental wellness, where that includes working on our mind, our bodies, and our spirit, it helps us to get to a space of total wellness. So for some people, you know, being able to kind of connect with, okay, I'm having this tightness in my shoulders. Maybe I need to do something to release that. Stress reduction exercises, stress inoculation exercises. There are particular things and exercises that absolutely help with stress reduction, which is totally connected to particular mental illnesses such as anxiety, depression. We feel it all in our bodies. So yes, there's a true connection. I know I myself personally battled with anxiety and depression, and exercise was the thing for me. It was an outlet. It was a space where I didn't always have to talk about what I was feeling, but it was a space for me to release that in a different way.
Oh gosh, that's good. That's good. Sometimes I find there's parts or seasons rather in life where I'm like, I've got to get outside. I've got to get, you know, to the park so that I can walk. And it's something about being in that space where, as you said, Shonda, it clears not just my mind, but times when I just can't sleep the way that I know I'm supposed to sleep, and going out and doing those things versus I'm sitting up and I'm doing the Netflix after Netflix after Netflix. I'm doing something that's now helping my body, but it's also calming my mind because now I'm in a different space. I participated, I feel like, in becoming healthy in my mental space. Dr. Chanel.
Yeah, I would definitely want to agree with what Ms. Shonda just stated. Walking is so, exercise in general is so important to everyone. You know, being able to go outside, get that vitamin D that we need, you know, of course, you know, take it back to when we were 5 years old and used to like going outside to grandma's house and grandfather's house or our parents' house, running outside with no shoes on.
That's
at
country living right there.
That's it. And at 43 years old, I still go outside, you know, barefoot a whole lot. I have a holistic doctor that I work with, and she tells me all the time, you know, make sure you spend about an hour outside and make sure you ground yourself. And of course, people don't realize the healing that comes along with that, you know. Also, you know, going outside and people, as crazy as it may sound, you know, but going outside and talking to the trees and the birds and different things of that nature, just getting outside in nature is so, so, so important for all of us. I just recently recently divorced. And when I tell you that walking, as far as clarification, you know, being able to go outside and walk and clear my mind, I was trying to walk my problems away. Do you hear me? And in the process, I lost a total of 75 pounds. But you know, the things, all the great benefits that comes along with the walking. I just can't explain it. And you have to do it for yourself in order to really, really see exactly how important it is for all of us. I mean, everybody needs to do it, even if it's 15 minutes. 15 minutes is cute, but 30 minutes or more is what your body really, really needs, you know? But that's what I definitely would like to say in regards to that. And making sure that we're eating right. You know, there's so many different moving pieces to just our mental wellness in general. But just like Shonda said, it's the mind, it's the body, it's the soul, and it's the spirit for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's good. That's good. I want to hit, we went from youth to parents and talking about some of the generational things. I want to talk about some of the stigmas that hit based off of gender, male or female.
I think Daddy has something to say as well.
Yes, Daddy. Yes. Sorry, I didn't see you. Thank you.
Yes, before we move on to that new subject, I'm sitting here and taking notes along the way and connecting the dots of these notes in this conversation, this dialogue that we're having, which is absolutely outstanding. I'm not a counselor. I'll go ahead and share that with you up front. I do work in a capacity as the director of horticulture for an organization that does take care of residents, as we refer to them, with basically every imaginable condition of physical or mental disability that you could come up with. And it takes me back to something that a conversation I've had with people in the past, and it went sort of like this: treat everybody alike, but no two the same. And in some of these conversations with people, you know, I'm challenged back, well, how do you do that? I mean, that does not really make sense, or they're one and the same. I have an opportunity, though, working with our residents to really define that. How do you treat everyone alike and no two the same? And one of the mechanisms that I found to be very, very effective in doing that is focus on their passion. When you focus on a person's passion, it does not matter what intellectual level they may have, you instantly connect with them. And through that connection, it brings me to another point where one of the young ladies said about not asking people how you feel. When you connect with them on their passion level, they'll tell you how they're feeling. And once that obstacle is removed away, you can learn so much from an individual that they will share with you and give you an opportunity to address some of the issues that they're having. Because as was said before, we all have some level of mental or physical disability, you know, regardless of the fact whether we acknowledge it, we have it and it exists within us. And in closing, in this statement here, Dr. Chanel mentioned about walking outside barefooted. What I do as the director of horticulture, and a couple of times a week I'm leading horticultural therapy sessions, I take them back to a point in time that they can remember what it was like to go outside and play in the dirt. So I will not say, okay, it's time to get some pot and plant. It's time to grab some shovels, grab some spades and play in the dirt. And that connects me with them in a way that is just so powerful.
Yeah.
So we can do a lot if we only take time to listen. Listen intently to a person's passion, they'll open up to you. And it allows us, I believe, wholeheartedly to treat them not the same, not alike, not the same. You got to figure out how to connect with them. And once you make that connection, then you can have an impact.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing that, Daddy. That's good. That's good. And horticulture, give us the name. We'll give them the name of where you work at so that they can pull it up, because a lot of people may not be familiar with horticulture.
Absolutely. I brag about them all the time. If you get a chance, go on and Google Holy Angels. It's located in Belmont, North Carolina. I can say so many things about this organization, you know, from if you're looking at how to model a culture within your own organization, look at Holy Angels. And our accomplishment, I think, speaks to that positive culture we have there. We just got a letter the other day that said for the 6th consecutive year, we've not even had a recommendation, much less an error on a auditing report from an agency. This was the agency, the state of North Carolina, as a matter of fact. We are also rated on the world, not a national, but on the world scale. And on the world scale, we are number 2 in the world. Of all countries in the world, we're number 2 at what we do. And that's from taking care of our residents, how we treat our staff, just the culture that exists there. This is a wonderful place to work. Take a look at it, and I guarantee you that you're going to be inspired by what you see.
Thank you, Daddy, for sharing that.
I'm coming to North Carolina to play in the dirt. I want to make mud pies.
Mud pies. And I see Mother Jerry just put something.
And we say, I mean, I drew that out, mud pies and playing the dirt. Something I did mention, but I do want to mention it now, and I challenge people, and not just my residents, because most of them are mentally challenged in one capacity or the other, but on some of the other workshops that I've done with some very well-educated people, I challenge you to do what I do and worry at the same time. It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. You cannot do it.
That's good. That's good. We have a comment in the chat that comes with a question. Mother Jerry Patton asked the question. She said, saying walking sounds simple, but we do live in a society where stress is often handled by overindulging in things that are not good for us. How do we move past those feelings? And that's real. Wow, and it helps. I think of addictions, and I think of things that people, at the end of the day, some folks don't have the space. I was talking with a lady out of Ohio, and she said, Pastor Tab, she said, the area where I live in an apartment building, and there are no sidewalks. And she was just describing, and she's a senior, lady, and she said, I can't get out. So that walking, wouldn't be a solution for her, but just looking at that question, because somebody leaned to how do we improve and how do we move past those type of feelings that, you just can't walk away. Walking is a good option, but how do we get past those feelings?
I want to say something to that, Tabitha.
Yes.
One of the things that's very important are people who you see here on the screen, professionals.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the language all the time to get through a thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how to walk through it. And that's why you have LPCs and LCSWs and so forth. That's why you have addictions counselors, because you don't know how to manage your emotions. You don't know how to compartmentalize, how to go to the root of what's causing this stress for you, even if you're a hoarder or whatever the case may be. So, leaning on your own understanding is not going to work. The Bible even tells us to lean not on our own understanding, but all thy ways acknowledge the Lord, and he will direct thy path. He'll direct you to a counselor, somebody who can help you. He'll direct you to even a good friend who is wise counsel, not just any friend, but a good friend who can give wise counsel, who may have gone through some of those things themselves. Mm-hmm. And I want to drop this before I finished. I am now currently doing trauma therapy for people who have been in accidents. And Latasha was talking earlier about, they were talking about how the stress lies in your body. Well, it's a lot of the people who come to me didn't realize that talking through what just happened to them and understanding what happened in the brain that's causing all of these emotions and also causing the stress in their body. Once they began to have these sessions with me, now the chiropractor work is working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that tension that they were holding, lower back, shoulders, Even a guy with his arm, he's like, my arm feels better now. Yeah, because now you walked into that treatment calm and relaxed. You knew where to mentally put that information that you didn't understand before. So help is necessary. And as a people, Black people, we have got to be willing and open to receive help. And that's why we have all these beautiful professionals on the panel. Hats
Awesome.
off to all of you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing that, Yvette. And one of the things I told you guys I was going to share was the ABCs, and the A stands for the word assist. Assist when someone needs help. And it's simple questions of, have you talked to your primary care physician about what you're feeling? They can normally direct you to professionals, such as yourself. Finding an actual therapist. With most jobs, they offer something that's called EAP that we're going to talk about in just a minute. And then joining self-help groups, because those are opportunities where you get to connect in a group setting, because it's amazing how sometimes, the enemy wants us to think that we're the only person that's depressed and the only person that's struggling and the only person that's having a rough day. And as you asked that question, Mother Jerry, that just can't get past what I'm feeling right now. So assisting someone isn't always having, as you said, Yvette, wise counsel. I may not know what to say in that moment, but I can at least assist you in saying, have you talked to a professional? And even being the person that says, I'll go with you to the appointment. If you need, I will go with you, or I'll help you find a therapist. Melanie, that we talked about earlier, Dr. Thompson, is so many individuals, even from the E-Church, that reached out and they said, Pastor Tab, look, mental health is something you talk about. I don't have a therapist. And I'm like, I got one. Mel, here's her number, call her. So I would love to get you ladies information as well. But that's one of the things that the body of Christ, we may not all be set up where we have counselors and we have that ministry that's set up, but we all can point someone in the direction of a professional. I want to go to this men-women stigmatism. With women, we talked about it with men. Men are told to suck it up, stop crying, you'll be okay, wipe your tears and all of that stuff. And men don't cry. And then the girls are taught, take on the weight of the world on your shoulder and figure it out and fix it. And you're the nurturer and you should be able to love people through it. And at the end of the day, those are stigmas. Those are not things that we really need to be continuing to try to live out. How do you guys recommend we break that as it relates to just that genderism of mental health?
I say we talk about it. I had a conversation today and we were discussing how the main emotion that men are acceptable or accepted at having is anger, right? They don't have the space to say that they're confused or they're embarrassed or they're lonely but they can express anger and it's acceptable. And so we had a dialogue. We were talking about it, like, what does this look like and how can we change it? And I think it really starts with conversations about it. I came then home to talk to my husband about it. Like, honey, let's talk about it. What does this mean? What is it like for you to have a better understanding? It really starts with having conversations. And that's what we're doing now, having this conversation.
That's good. That's good. And Daddy, I want to ask you, because Daddy, you are retired Air Force, and you've worked with many of the individuals that have come through the military. I have 3 sons, 2 that are in the Army, and I can't tell you the calls and the conversations from just a mental perspective. You go through this branch of service, and I get it. I had somebody to walk me through it. They're going to strip you, and they're going to make sure that the only voice that you hear is that of your, commander, your sergeant, or, whoever the person is yelling and making all that noise. They're going to tell you that your mama don't matter. And they're going to make you just feel like the lowest thing. And then they're going to say, now defend this country. And I get it, because I was told, because if you get in war and combat, the voice that they need to hear is that of that commander, so that they aren't in a place where they're frozen. But at the end of the day, it is a stripping that takes place. And for men, I'm like, whoa, And it's almost like you have to be this robot and this thing. So Daddy, I want to ask in that space, and thank all military for your service. So we're not, beating you up, but it is something, even with our athletes, our football players, that they are really taught to kind of carry this thing of the only emotion you can show is anger. Like, Daddy, walk us through that.
Well, it's different, I think, with different people, and the way that I handle it was quite different, I think, than most people were capable of doing so. And mine started with the fact that, when I entered the Air Force, mentally, I was probably 10 or 15 years ahead of my chronological age as far as maturity. And that started with my mom passed away early and me having to take on those adult-like responsibilities. So I handled it very, very well. I didn't take it personally, even though they were yelling in my face from 6 inches away. It was a game, and I knew how to play the game. And I shared that along the way with other members of the organization I was with, and then even most recently with my grandson, Christopher, just 2 weeks ago, how to handle, things of the stress, the emotion, the suck it up, all of those things that goes along with being in the military. But yet, as you say, at the end of the day, you are a human being with feelings and emotions.
Yeah. Wow.
It takes truly someone that has wisdom, to have gone through it, and to be able to reach out to their brotherhood and help people, recognize what's going on. And a lot of time the recognition is coming through by way of observation as opposed to asking a question. Because I could almost assure you that if you ask a typical military person, how are you feeling, you're not going to get a true answer.
That's good.
Life is happening, and if you have that wisdom, if you have that foundation of being able to recognize a person that is suffering through something, you got to step in, and you got to know how to do that, and be willing to do.
And be willing. Thank you for sharing that. And what you took us really to was the B's, which I was being educated, becoming educated. I think there's so many things that are focused on children, or they're focused on women, that we don't consider that it really doesn't have anything to do with gender or age. So when we talk about being educated, I wanted to just share this, and I'm really mindful of our time. Are you guys seeing the screen on your side? The A, sis, but this becoming educated. And for the eChurch members, what I'm asking is that you would commit to taking, starting next week. These are different mental illnesses. And just looking up what is an anxiety disorder. And here are some of the examples. And this is coming from the Mental Health Foundation, because I'm not that smart. But they give a list of, maybe starting on Monday, researching what is an anxiety disorder and what are some of the examples that we don't realize it could be a form of anxiety. So for example, stress. One of y'all professionals, can y'all pronounce that A word? I really am from the Carolinas. I'm not gonna fag it.
It's agoraphobia.
Thank you so much. You're from the Carolinas too. Oh, I was born in Montana. Thank you, ma'am. Phobias, PTSD. We hear that and we think it's only military. Dr. Chanel talks about that often. It is not just military. So just taking a time, childhood disorders, the cognitive disorders, eating disorders. When you're talking about, sometimes you may not be able to ask someone, as you said, Natalie, thank you for educating me, and Daddy as well, how are you feeling? But you may see something that shows up where you realize, wait, this person always binge eats, or you may see something that they'll never articulate, but it opens up a conversation. I've talked to people and, they look at me because I'm small frame and, they feel embarrassed to have certain conversations. And at the end of the day, the only thing that I tell them is, I said, let me tell you why I'm small. I'm small because I went through, before reconnecting with my dad, I went through foster care. And my body was trained because of our living conditions, not to eat. So when I get stressed, I have girlfriends that know your eating is off. So I'm thin, not because I work out and I'm, that health group. No, I'm thin because if I get stressed, if work gets stressed, if stuff is going on crazy at the house, my appetite goes away. And I have a high metabolism. My doctor had to write me a prescription to eat for someone that you would normally write for someone that's anorexic, but I don't have anorexia. So it's those things where if you are, again, just paying attention to people, you'll notice sometimes when something is off so that you can point them in the direction of professionals like this. And then this last one, the C, change. Every human has value and deserves the same quality of respect, quality health care, and social support as those around them. I want to just touch on this before we slip off, because you guys are professionals in your space. And we talked about it very briefly, but some jobs do offer EAP. Yvette Point say, hey, connect with a professional. As an HR, president of HR, I can tell you that there has been a stigmatism that I've had to educate people on. And hey, EAP is a resource. The information doesn't come back to the company. We don't even get your name. We get nothing about you. The only thing is we get a report because it's third party that says we had a person that came for counseling for a divorce or for family or for an addiction, but we don't get any type of demographics to try to connect it to who that person may be. So for you guys, especially Latasha, because I know you do workplace emotional wellness, oftentimes people don't use the resources that is a part of a company benefit. Can you talk to us about that, please?
Yes, I definitely think that in my private practice, when I am working with clients, a lot of times they didn't realize that the resource exists. So it may be something that they talk about at open enrollment, then they may talk about at the next open enrollment, but it's not something that's talked about in the staff meeting. It's not something that's talked about on an ongoing basis. So people shy away from it. And then the education around the information not getting back to their supervisors. They're not going to use it if they think that the supervisor, they just don't understand the system. And then the other pieces regarding the amount of EAP benefits based on what the need is, it's really difficult for someone to come in and know they only have 3 sessions and we're talking about childhood trauma. Their insurance doesn't cover it, and so they're not going to use that resource if the system doesn't change regarding how we look at mental health. We should not have 3 sessions. It's great. It's a good start, but it's really just a teaser for what our clients really need. So if we're really going to do the work, we need to advocate for better mental health systems within HR departments, and companies need to look at it like it's a health benefit, and make sure that there's enough of the resources for people to be able to have more sessions besides 3.
Oh gosh, you hit that nail on the head and hammered it down. I tell you, I am so grateful, and I'm getting ready to wrap us up, and I'm gonna just come around the horn real quick, and let each one of you just leave us with a nugget. But in the company that I work with, the name of the organization is Prenda, and our CEO Kelly Smith has made sure that mental health counseling is 100% covered, number one, and there are no limitations to the service. And it's the first time in 25 plus years, I'm like, what? So it's there because he, and I asked him, I said, is this, a typo in my package? I'm looking at the benefits, because I've never seen it. And he said the same thing, Latasha. He said, I just don't think you can get help with 3 or 5 sessions, and what if people need more? And I want to make sure people are okay. So I challenge any person that's out there where you have a seat at the table to be an advocate for fighting for benefits and quality benefits so that people can be in a position to be okay. I'm going to take us around the horn and we're going to wrap off. Ladies, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys so much. Mother Jerry, Miss Jessie, Mother Carolyn, I see you there. Thank you guys so much for being on today. But I want you guys to leave us in this PDF, guys. I'm going to post it on my page so that you guys will have it, because I'm really, the challenge is as we wear our On the Move shirts, is if you can share it with at least one person, share this PDF so that they have access to knowing the ABCs. 988 is the suicide number. If you know someone that's suicidal, you can call 988, and 911, of course, is for emergency support. But Latasha, I want to first start with you, and I'm just going to go, in order as it's showing on my screen. As it goes back to this conversation of breaking the stigmatism or not having stigma towards mental health, what would you want to leave us with?
As humans, we all want to be heard, seen, and respected.
That's good. As humans, we all want to be, say that again.
Heard, seen, and respected.
Heard, seen, and respected. That's good. Not just me, but also the person I'm interacting with. That's really good. Natalie, what would you leave us with?
As it relates to breaking stigmas, I offer we all play a part in that. We all play a part in that. And one of the ways we can work on it is working on our biases, our unconscious and our conscious biases that we have about mental health and mental health illnesses or conditions, knowing what they are. And that might mean like spending some time, like you said, researching, having conversations. Think about the first things that pop into your head when you see someone that may have a condition, or you think someone has a condition. That speaks to your unconscious bias, and we have to work on them. We all are responsible for that.
That's good, Natalie. That's a part of that see and change of, we hear don't discriminate, but it goes so much deeper, refraining from portraying people a certain way, making certain comments, as I said, the short bus or retard. My grandson is autistic, and our whole family had to go through a whole, well, what do we say? Because at first it was like, do we talk about it? And now we're like, yeah, Gabe is, Gabriel is our baby. So we will talk about it. But it was not a conversation we ever had to talk about. So yeah, that's really good. Mr. Brogdon, what would you add to the conversation about breaking stigmas?
I would go back to something that I shared earlier, and that would be embrace other people's passion as if it were your own. Because I think in doing so, it would open up that channel of communication. Whereas, and I think the words that some people will use is venting, but it opens up that opportunity for us to hear what's going on. And then we may be that only person that has been willing to do so. And if we're armed on how to use the ABCs, then we can do our part in making sure that the information gets forwarded on.
Thank you for sharing. That's good. That's good. Wow. Shonda, what would you contribute?
It has been a statement that I've heard very often, but I would like to say this: it is okay to not be okay. You don't have to feel like you have to tough life out. Make sure that you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. That is the way we remove the stigma, that we normalize being okay, not being okay, normalizing that and saying, okay, I'm not okay. What do I need to do next so that I am okay? And also understanding that mental health treatment is self-care. Self-care is not only just about getting your hair done and your nails done and massages. Those things are great. But when we talk about true self-care, we have to understand that that includes mental wellness, working on our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. So it is okay to not be okay, but make sure you do something to take care of yourself.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That is the whole purpose of the eChurch, focusing on mental health as an initiative. That's really, really good. Yvette, anything that you'd like to add to this conversation?
I'd just like to add, in addition to, it's okay not to be okay, that it's important to know how to articulate how you feel, know how to describe your emotions. And it's one of the things we don't do enough of is describing how we feel. We know some common language like, I'm okay. No, I'm not okay. But it should never be acceptable from a person you care about for them to hunch their shoulders about being okay. Like, the smirk, the this, with my kids, I never allowed them to just hunch or whatever. I wanted them to articulate how they felt. And I believe we can get the help we need if we learn to use the words that express how we feel inside.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that. Being able to articulate how we feel, how we feel. And Dr. Chanel, I know you got to get Elijah off. Anything that you'd like to add?
I would just say making sure that we have a balance and to always put self-care, mental wellness, uh, that's our everyday life,
Yeah,
that we should be living. And of course, just focusing on yourself, mind, body, soul, and spirit is extremely important, to just cover, all aspects of your life as
that's
a
good.
whole.
As a whole. Wow.
And focus on the inner healing. The inner healing is what's extremely important. A lot of times we're focusing on the outer healing and not dealing with the inner healing. So of course we're left in situations where we're repeating cycles over and over again. So that's what I would leave.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know we have these three amazing ladies. I don't want to put y'all on the spot, but if anybody would like to, share, I want to give you that space. If you'd like to add, contribute anything to the conversation, feel free to. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I thank you guys so very much for just being a part of this conversation. As we said, May is the month for mental health awareness. And I want to just look dead in the camera and say to anybody that's listening out there, I hope you heard the nuggets from all of these professionals and just from people that everyday, ordinary people like myself, not a professional in mental health. But at the end of the day, it's something that we all have to be a part of. As one of our panelists said, we all have responsibilities as it relates to making sure that we are okay. So, guys, I thank you for being a part of this conversation. Tuesday Live with eChurch. Thank you so much. For those of you that got the t-shirts, green represents Mental Health Awareness Month. But for those of you that got the shirt, this was just our first method of saying, hey, we want to be a partner in the community to say we are on the move as it relates to taking care of our neighbor and loving individuals the way that we love ourselves. So I'm going to resume this Zoom call. I thank you guys again. I'm praying that either this is already on Facebook, and if not, I'm about to upload it. Y'all, I told y'all this technology thing, we're getting it piece by piece. We had a birthday celebration last quarter, and the passcode was wrong on the flyer. So I said, well, God, we got the passcode right this time. We're gonna grow piece by piece. So I'm glad we were able to have the call. Professionals, professionals, professionals. Thank you so much for being not only on this call, but I also want to say thank you because oftentimes in what you do, what people don't realize is that you too need a counselor. And you too need to have a safe space to say, hey, I need to talk. And as you said today, I'm not okay. So my prayer is that they say sometimes doctors are the worst patients, that you guys will also be great patients over your lives, and that you will continue to just be in a place where not only you help individuals, but you model what it means to be holistic in your mind, body, and soul. I love you guys, and it's time for that church nap. Yes, it is. So I pray that the rest of your Sunday is phenomenal. And again, to our panelists, thank you so very much. Formerly, we had Shonda Johnson, we had Natalie, that's on Natalie Warren, we had Latasha. Latasha, give us your last name. I know I got it in my thing.
Matthews.
Latasha Matthews, thank you so much. And we also had our professionals, Dr. Crystal Chanel, Yvette Searson. I thank you so much, Daddy, for sharing what you do with Horticulture. We are all a part of this movement. So you guys have an absolutely phenomenal rest of your Sunday and a fabulous week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, you guys.